From Sci-Factor, Chronicles of the Paranormal, edited by Dan Aykroyd. Stalker Moon. Recently, researchers have studied pheromones that seem to be associated, among other physiological functions, with the love experience. But could such a biochemical process turn adoration into an obsessive, all-consuming, and malignant force? In the following case, the OSIR discovered just how far one fan would go to pursue his object of desire. That little foreword written by Dan Aykroyd. Stalker Moon, time and place. After dinner in front of Jackie Kinley's house in Vancouver, British Columbia. Gavin Phillips drops Jackie off at her house. "It's a TV movie, Jackie. It isn't Citizen Kane," Gavin says. "Still, to go from actor to director, that's quite a jump," Jackie says, complimenting him. "Hey, it'll be great working together again," Gavin says. "The producer's a big fan of your Julie Bright movie." "Yeah, everybody loves Julie Bright," Jackie notes cynically. Forgetting her purse on the floor, Jackie opens her door to get out. "Okay, see you on the set, kid." Jackie walks to her house and Gavin drives off. Corbin Dean watches Gavin's car get smaller. As Jackie closes the door, she deadbolts the chain. She goes to turn on her alarm, but it won't activate. She doesn't remember leaving a window open, but she closes it, pressing the button on her flickering answering machine on the way. The first message is a dial tone. The second is from Gavin from before he picked her up. The third message chills her. It is Corbin Dean. "Jackie, come to the church. We must meet." As Jackie closes the window, Corbin Dean materializes behind her. Jackie spins around as she hears Gavin's voice become Corbin's on the machine. And she sees Corbin, who motions her to be quiet. And then he is gone. But where? Jackie scrambles for the door, but Corbin is right behind her. In a panic, Jackie yanks open the door where Gavin stands with the purse she left in his car. Jackie looks behind her. Corbin Dean is gone. The next day, Jackie sees her therapist, Dr. Ruth Godwin. "Let's work through this," Godwin says. "If Corbin Dean was there, how did he get out of the house?" "I don't know." "Are you sure it was him?" "Well, he shaved off his beard, but yeah, it was Corbin Dean. I just can't believe it's happening again." As she drives away, Jackie looks in her rearview mirror. As she looks back to the road, she sees Corbin Dean standing in front of her. Instinctively, she hits the brakes, but there's no way she can avoid hitting him. Strangely, her car passes right through him. The Marriage of Julie Bright is a Blue Velvet meets The Hunger kind of movie, a cult favorite. Jackie, dressed in a Gothic-style dress as Julie Bright, runs toward her church. When she arrives at the door, Julie checks to see if she's being followed. On the door is a church notice, October 16, funeral service for Raymond Kelly. Julie closes and bolts the door, approaching a casket at the front of the church, which is decorated with flowers and candles. She opens the casket. Inside is the body of Raymond, played by Gavin. She kisses the lips of the body. "Darling, I'll be with you soon and all this will be over. It's not going to happen anymore," she says, taking a ring off her finger and putting it on the body's hand. Time and place. "We're ready to go," OSIR by psychobiologist Lindsay Donner says, freezing the image as she sits with case manager Connor Doyle in the mobile lab. Doyle records his first log. "Case manager Connor Doyle, file number 569135. Investigation begins into a reported recurring apparition. We have been referred to the case by a former colleague of Dr. Hendricks, psychiatrist Ruth Godwin." The investigators interview Dr. Godwin. "I testified on Jackie's behalf at Corbin Dean's parole hearing. He was clean-shaven then. She wasn't there, yet she knew that he'd shaved off his beard. I saw him at the hearing, but how could Jackie have known that?" Hendricks looks at the file, noting classic stalker pathology. Adoration turns into obsession. Obsession turns ugly. Rejection turns into violence, he says. And violence turns into 5 years aggravated assault and attempted murder, Donner adds. Anything further from Beaconsfield Prison? Doyle asks. He was being transferred from the prison pending his final appeal. The prison authorities assure us he's somewhere in the system, Donner says. Earlier in the tape, the psychiatrist said something about Corbin Dean stealing from the subject. Doyle asks. The scene you watched in the movie, Donner says, apparently he stole all those props, the dress, the wedding ring. The next day, Jackie leads Doyle, Donner, and another OSIR investigator, Nicholson, around the house. Jackie moves to the window, showing them where she was when she saw Dean. Doyle examines the Marriage of Julie Bright poster in the hall. I think Corbin Dean saw the movie 65 times, Gavin says, shaking his head. It's a trade-off. When you're a public figure like this, you have an identity in people's minds that's totally outside your control. All kinds of weirdos come out of the woodwork. 3 years ago, the night he assaulted me, he was basically waiting outside my house to kill me, Jackie says. Essentially, I think that's it. He's not going to rest until one of us is dead. Back from Jackie's house, Doyle, Hendricks, and Donner talk in the mobile lab. It's likely she's suffering from post-traumatic stress, intensified by her fear of success, Hendricks says. There may be a link between Jackie's stalker anxiety and the fear of success. She doesn't want success because success brings stalkers. And her sightings began the day she learned she would be in this new movie, Doyle says. Nicholson enters, handing Doyle a fax. It's from Beaconsfield Prison, Doyle says. Corbin Dean won his appeal and was released 2 months ago. Apparently, the board failed to file a notice of his release. This is the last address his parole officer had for him. Hendricks, take a security operative and stay with Jackie. Donner, you're with me. Mr. Dean is out there somewhere. Time and place. On the movie set the next day, Jackie stands next to her stage husband holding a glass of champagne. No, that's not how it went at all, she tells him flirtatiously. Jackie walks out of the bedroom and up to Gavin. The crew looks on, bored. How bad if I'm still looking at him when I deliver that line and then I reach for the phone behind my back? Jackie suggests. That feels more natural for me. Telling Jackie to hold on, Gavin looks at the video assistant. Jackie looks around and notices somebody in the crew. Corbin Dean is staring at her. Jackie involuntarily squeezes her champagne glass, which breaks. Seeing that Jackie's hand is bleeding, Gavin takes a step toward her. Jackie, in a trance, misinterprets his gesture and shrinks away from him. Jackie can't see Corbin anywhere. Do you want to take a minute? Gavin asks. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind. Meanwhile, an OSIR van cruises along a dingy street in Beaconsfield, British Columbia, and Doyle dictates a case log update. In order to establish and confirm the exact circumstances of the initial stalker's whereabouts, Donner and I are en route to the last known address of Corbin Dean. The van pulls up outside a trailer home. Doyle and Donner get out and approach the trailer. Miscellaneous mail is strewn around the front door. Doyle picks up an envelope addressed to Mr. R.K. Kelly, then knocks on the door. No answer. They walk around the trailer trying to look in the windows, but they are heavily boarded up. Look at this, Donner says, picking up a variety trade paper from which an article has been torn. That's normally the section where they list new productions with their locations and when they begin shooting, Doyle says, knocking again on the trailer. Doyle bends down, inspecting the door lock. He gives the door a sudden hoist and it opens slightly. Doyle and Donner squeeze into the dark trailer. Doyle pulls out a pen light and flashes it around. The trailer is dirty, mostly empty of furniture except for a ratty bureau in the corner. Disappointed that he probably won't find anything, Doyle sits down on a makeshift bed in one corner. Leaning back, he sees that the ceiling is covered in the Marriage of Julie Bright posters, identical to the one in Jackie Kinley's house. Time and place. Doyle speaks into his recorder in the mobile lab. Case log update. Donna and I have just returned from Dean's trailer where we recovered some personal effects linked to the character of Julie Bright, a role the subject made famous in a film 5 years ago. Doyle clicks off the recorder. According to the prison doctors, Hendricks tells his colleagues, Dean's been in the advanced stages of heart disease for some time. His massive heart attack in prison persuaded the parole board to release him on compassionate grounds. And now Dean appears to be restalking our subject, but how did he get into a closed set? Doyle wonders. And how did Jackie drive her car right through him? Doyle asks. All items that Ms. Kinley was missing were recovered from the trailer, except the prop wedding ring, Donner says. Initiate 72-hour on-site monitoring with the subject in the controlled environment, Doyle orders. When he comes again, we'll be ready. Time and place. Tired after rehearsal, Jackie walks from her house to a waiting car where Donner sits. Gosh, Jackie says, I suppose if I stop laughing, I'd go insane. Any news? We're going to be setting up some additional equipment inside for the next 3 days, Donner explains. And we'll need you. Okay. Yeah, I have to confront this and deal with it myself. Otherwise, it's going to own me for the rest of my life. She opens the car door to go. Nicholson, a security coordinator, and 2 other security operatives stand guard around the house. Doyle and Donner monitor the house from the mobile lab. Jackie walks in and takes off her shoes. As she goes upstairs, the whispering starts. The world wakes up for Julie Bright. Corbin appears on the stairs behind her. Professor Doyle, there he is, Jackie says through the comlink. Biostats registering a variety of responses typical of someone hearing, seeing, and responding to traumatic sensory information, Donner says. She thinks she sees him, but there's nothing. Jackie turns toward the apparition, which vanishes. Jackie screams, there he is! The OSIR investigators watch as Jackie picks up a vase and throws it down the hall. Then she flees into her bedroom. Electromagnetic activity on the 2nd floor, Donner tells Doyle, who starts heading for the house. Something's happening. Jackie, now in a trance, stares at Corbin. Nicholson and Doyle rush in. Jackie looks over at them, then collapses onto the bed. Let's get Ms. Kinley to the lab, Doyle says. It was electromagnetic variance, Donner tells Doyle through the comlink, 30 gigahertz. Frequency that high, Doyle says, taking a final look around. He walks out as the apparition of Corbin Dean watches him. The investigators discuss the incident in the mobile lab. I don't understand. How could someone have gotten in? We had the house sealed off with someone stationed at every door, Nicholson says. Unless he was in there to begin with, incorporeal, Hendricks says. It's more frustrating because Jackie is the only one to see him. It's almost as if this were a subjective haunt, where an entity in crisis broadcasts a telepathic signal to a subject, who in turn casts the impulse into a tangible form, but manifests no physical evidence, Donner says. But that doesn't really apply unless Dean is dead, Doyle says, thinking out loud. The trailer we found the Julie Bright items in, it was rented to an R.K. Kelly. Doyle clicks on the remote control and the Marriage of Julie Bright comes on the screen during the scene where Julie approaches the church. Doyle pauses it at the moment Julie opens the door of the church. The funeral notice on the door says October 16, funeral service for Raymond Kelly. October 16th, Hendrik says that's tomorrow. The next day, Jackie stares at the church. Her dress resembles the Julie Bright dress. She approaches the door. A notice on the door flaps in the wind, but she ignores it. She opens the door and goes inside. Jackie walks down the aisle of the dark, empty church. There are whispers. Jackie stops and looks, but sees nothing. When she looks back at the front of the church, Corbin appears, waiting for her as if he were a bridegroom, but his appearance matches that of a corpse. Then he vanishes. Jackie continues down the aisle. As she approaches the front of the church, a disturbed Corbin follows her. Jackie arrives at the front of the church where a casket lies, just as one lay in the Julie Bright movie. Jackie puts her hand on the casket and Corbin materializes behind her. Jackie feels his presence, but, staying focused, doesn't turn around. Instead, she opens the casket. Inside is the 2-week-old body of the real Corbin Dean. In its open hand is the Julie Bright wedding ring. Jackie looks at him a moment before grabbing the ring. "Jackie," Doyle calls, jolting her out of her reverie. Hendricks and Donner follow Doyle. "It's over. Finally, it's all over," Jackie says, looking back at the casket to see the ghost of Corbin Dean. The ghost begins to dissipate. "It's not going to happen anymore," Jackie says. "Thanks for letting me do that on my own. I appreciate it," she says, giving Doyle the wedding ring. Jackie leaves. Donner bends over the corpse, taking a letter out of the casket. Doyle, Hendricks, and Donner hold a round table in the mobile lab. The letter explained everything. It was about atonement, at least in his mind, Doyle says. He was giving back everything he had taken from her while he was alive, completing what he needed to do. And knowing that he was going to die, he put himself in the movie. Bizarre, but consistent. That film was his whole life, and his death too, Hendricks says, adding that the pathologist report puts his death at October 4th, the same day Jackie received his phone call. "I was just thinking that it was Jackie Kinley's image that obsessed Corbin Dean, and which in the end overwhelmed his identity," Donner says. And in turn, it was his image that terrorized and very nearly overwhelmed Jackie Kinley. Jackie walks with Gavin on the movie set as Doyle gives a final case log. File number 569135. We have gone ahead with field flux termination and eradication procedures at the subject's home, even though no more audible or visual sightings of the apparition have been experienced by the subject. As of last week, Jackie Kinley has essentially returned to her normal life. Months later, leaving the set one day, Jackie is accosted by a young fan. She agrees to sign her autograph. She feels uneasy. Something about the fan seems too familiar. Epilogue. What becomes of our consciousness after death? Although Corbin Dean was clinically dead, did he actually project himself in a non-corporeal state, or did his presence exist only in Jackie Kinley's mind? Whatever the answer, working with Jackie, the OSIR was able to effectively terminate this subjective haunt. Danny Croyd.